Welcome Black Two-Way TV. I'm your host, Mr. Two-Way. Now, Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws, and yet and still, we have some of the highest death rates by gun. So much so, we earned the nickname Chiraq. And no, I'm not talking about that Spike Lee joint. Enter Governor Northam signing in the same laws that's here doing nothing for Virginians. And just like a politician, he's taking advantage of the tragic situation that we're facing with the COVID-19 pandemic and using that to further his agenda, knowing people can't congregate to protest. It's asinine to continue passing these so-called common sense gun laws, knowing criminals still have the ability to get these firearms in the black market. The only people they hurt are the law-abiding citizens. And if you don't want to accept their encroachment on your Second Amendment right, then they criminalize you, all the while using the guise of public safety. Look at their neighbors in Washington, D.C. They have some of the strictest gun laws as well, and still they have a high gun death rate. How can people feel safe when you strip them of the means to protect themselves and emboldening the criminals to keep doing as they please, no matter how nice you ask them to stop?
Until the coronavirus is resolved, criminals take a break, okay? Stay home, okay? Stay home and don't commit any crimes. And that way, they'll stay safe and out of jail, and police officers will stay safe and can go home to their families, okay? So everybody chill. Crooks, criminals, you chill. Wait till the coronavirus is over, okay?
So let's take a deeper look at these laws that Northam just passed. Background checks. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against background checks, but to be honest with you, it's not going to stop a criminal from getting a firearm from off the streets. The average criminal looking to commit a crime with a firearm isn't going through the normal channels to get that gun because they know it can be traced back to them. So let's talk about how a background check is going to stop someone from committing a crime of passion. And for those who don't know what a crime of passion is, a crime of passion refers to a perpetrator committing an act against someone because of a sudden impulse of rage. For example, someone shooting their spouse because they just caught them cheating, road rage, or an altercation out and about that escalated unreasonably. Legally, even with a background check, they were able to purchase a firearm. You can't legislate evil out of people's heart. If they have malicious intent to harm or kill someone regardless of having access to a firearm or not, they will find a way to carry out that intention. Which brings me to mental instability. If a person has been diagnosed with severe mental issues, they cannot legally purchase a firearm. Conversely, if they haven't, they can. So if they want to buy a firearm, sad to say, commit suicide with it, which makes up over 60% of gun deaths, a background check isn't going to do anything to help them. All that money they use to propagate anti-gun sentiment should be used to help the mentally ill get a hold of their affliction. But here's the real biggie: mass shootings. When most people think of mass shootings, they think of Vegas shooting, Parkland, Aurora, Columbine. So when politicians and the media say there's been thousands of mass shootings, what they fail to mention is they're including all mass shooting stats. And all that constitutes a mass shooting is any incident involving a firearm being discharged where 3 or more are shot regardless of death or injury, with the majority being the latter. Nowhere near the conflation of numbers they tell the public. But once again, that's not a gun issue. The perpetrators have a mental health issue. So why won't they focus their attention on why the people are committing these heinous atrocities? I'll tell you why. Because they don't want to do the necessary work needed to rectify the root cause of these actions. So it's easy to blame the tool used rather than blame the individual. Yet firearms are the only tool used that get a blame for an individual's actions. Cars aren't to blame when someone runs somebody over. Knives aren't to blame when someone stabs someone. Buildings aren't to blame when someone jumps off of it. So why are only guns being scrutinized as if they jumped up on their own and started a rampage because fixing the problem is too much for them. And that's why they like implementing red flag laws. Whereas once again, they only need to put in a minimum amount of effort in tasking you with determining someone's mental health and whether or not they should retain ownership of a firearm. They just take away someone's firearm without due process, taking away not only their Second Amendment right, but their Fifth as well. And that's just the ones who comply. If they don't comply, like in the case with a Ferndale, Maryland resident who was shot and killed by officers.
An Anne Arundel County man is dead after officers say he refused to give up his gun to police.
Officers shot and killed him at his home this morning where they were attempting to enforce the new red flag law.
Police now guarding the street where their attempt to enforce the new red flag law turned fatal hours earlier. Around 5:15 in the morning, Anne Arundel County police say they came to a home on Linwood Avenue near Broadview Boulevard to take weapons from 60-year-old Gary Willis. They say two officers knocked on the door and Willis answered, armed with a handgun. Sergeant Jacqueline Davis says at first he put the gun down and stepped outside to talk with police.
He was fine with the officers until they told him, hey, we're serving you with this order, and this order orders us from the court to take your guns.
At that point, she says Willis went for his gun. One of the officers tried to grab it out of his hand, and Willis pulled the trigger. That bullet didn't hit anyone, but it prompted the other officer to open fire, shooting and killing the gun owner.
That means your life can be at risk. So as a firearms owner, not only do you have to worry about your safety against attackers, but anybody that knows you and wants to abuse the red flag laws against you. The government wants to have the ability to control all aspects of your life. This is evident with limiting one handgun a month. What other product out there can you only buy once a month? Can't think of anything, can you? Me neither. You can own any and as many things you want as long as you have the means. But when it comes to a tool that can protect your life, one a month. I might buy a handgun and then come across a great deal on another one. So I have to pass up a sale because the government said so? Can you imagine buying something from your favorite store and the next day they have a sale? But guess what? You bought your one item for the month. How that sound? Now think about this. You got a lot of stuff in your house. Now let's say you have a little get together and somebody got some sticky fingers. Do you notice right away? Probably not. But if you don't report it in 48 hours, you have to pay a fine. That's great. Now you're penalized for being a victim. Now, lastly, unlock firearms around children under 14. Here's the thing. If you educate kids about firearms, they are less likely to be endangered by a firearm. And that goes for everybody. Instead of chastising firearm ownership, we should be properly educating people on firearms. And I say properly because the information being disseminated by the anti-gunners is abhorrent.
We lose 93 million Americans a day to gun violence. I mean, I've long talked about this.
We have federal regulations and state laws that prohibit hunting ducks with more than 3 rounds, and yet it's legal to hunt humans.
But that would ban most pistols. That would ban most...
No, but pistols are different. You have to pull the trigger each time. An assault weapon, you basically hold it, goes... Gun
control, this is about national security. You know that these weapons can shoot down airplanes. They can blow up a railroad.
Regulated. What's a barrel shroud and why should we regulate it?
I actually don't know what a barrel shot is.
Because it's in your legislation.
It's a shoulder thing that goes up.
There's been a lot of people that have been shot by an unloaded gun.
This is a ghost gun. This right here has ability with a .30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double barrel shotgun. As I told my wife, I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts.
These new 3D printers, which can be purchased for about $1,000, allow guns to be made, perfectly functioning, firing guns without any metal.
They're either ill-advised and want to be blissfully ignorant to the truth, or they know the truth but want to lie to you to keep furthering their agenda. See, they use these laws and tactics to criminalize you, penalize you, or you die because you refuse to have your rights trampled upon, all under the guise of public safety. So as a firearms owner, not only do you have to worry about your safety against people trying to kill you, but also your government. How can you truly feel safe when your own government is against you? Sounds rather familiar if you're a person of color in this country. We fought long and hard for the rights we have today, and it's still a struggle. So don't let them revert back to the times where all the gun control laws were in place to keep us from defending ourselves. We need to be more vigilant than ever in the fight against these gun control measures, because the operative word there is control. So I urge you to go support your gun right advocacies. They are there to fight to make sure your rights to keep and bear arms isn't completely infringed upon. And remember, the truth will set you free. That's why they lied to you.